James Dolan goes off on the TV deal. Are the Clippers in damage control with Kawhi Leonard? And is Bronny James a pro all right now on the Locked On NBA podcast?
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yeah, welcome back to the Locked On NBA podcast. I like how that music just initially boom, 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 and then builds up. It gets me pumped up for the Locked On NBA podcast, which we're here on Wednesdays. Every Wednesday, it's us. I'm John Karalis, host of the Locked On Celtics podcast. Find me on Twitter/X at John_Karalis.
And I'm Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast on Twitter at NolaJake.
Today's show brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase of last-minute tickets. Terms apply. Hey, subscribe to the show. Make sure if you're new to the show, download the show wherever you get your podcast. Watch the show on YouTube. Get into the comment section. Let us know what you think. Later on, we'll play our always fun game, Real or Fake, with Bronny James and Jaylen Brown, whose lips were very clearly red on the sidelines of a summer league game. In the second segment, we'll get to Kawhi Leonard, and all of a sudden, the Clippers backtracking over why he left. But let's start with James Dolan, who is continuing his scorched earth campaign, Jake, against the NBA. He has been just angry at the NBA for a long time. Everything he's doing, everything they've done pisses him off. He's suing he sued the Raptors. He is criticizing Adam Silver. And now, after they signed an absolutely monstrous $77 billion TV rights deal, he's like, nope, this sucks too. Basically, in short, saying that the league is keeping too much of it for themselves. And they're basically going regional sports networks. We're going down the tubes now because of this deal. So I don't know, Jake. It sounds to me like nothing the league is doing is gonna be okay with James Dolan, and it sounds to me that he just wants to hold on to the way things were.
The leaked memo to ESPN, which probably came from like the league office being like, put this out there to make this dude look bad, just screams like the old man yells at Cloud Simpson's meme, basically. He's probably shaking his fist here. He raises one or two points that I don't hate in that thing where he's just like, yeah, it's cool. The value of our franchises is up, but that only matters when we sell. And it's like, well, that's not exactly true. Like, you can borrow against the value of a team. Like, you can tap into that money and it increases your net worth, right? Like, that gives you more access to money to do other things. So it is a valuable thing to have. And who doesn't love assets appreciating? His point about the regional sports networks and them taking the cut of that, look, like, this has been a dying industry for a minute, it feels like. You know, we get everyone listening to Locked On NBA here. So, dear listeners, like, is it easy for you to watch your local team? It really might not be on a regional sports network. And that is the majority of franchises in the league right now, where Bally Sports, Diamond Sports, the same thing, are like in danger of going under. And what's going to happen here? You know, you've seen it in Major League Baseball, where the league has had to step in. I don't know. The league kind of preparing for all of this and selling streaming rights so that the games can actually be watched everywhere seems pretty smart to me, because look, this is a game for the fans. So if you don't have fans watching, what's the point of doing all of this? And his point of, you know, like, oh, we're too much like the NFL here, right? Like, yeah, you mean the most popular sports league like in the world? What a horrible thing to try and be like, right? The thing that everybody in America loves. It's just dumb, right? Like, this is a dude who was trying to more or less compare market size to successful or unsuccessful franchises. If you look at the Knicks over the past 20 years, they have one of the worst records in the league, right? Like, they're not a successful franchise over the past 2 decades plus years. So for him to be like, oh, my successful team here, you're going to give the money to New Orleans or some of these other small markets, like, get out of here, dude.
Yeah, he's trying to hold on to a system, even though he's unable to take advantage and has been unable to take advantage of all of the gifts he's been given over the course of time. And frankly, the CBA has morphed to what it is because of James Dolan and the Knicks and how much money they were able to just throw around. It was the Knicks going and getting Carmelo Anthony for nothing that started the ball rolling of matching salaries in trades. And I think the Knicks were the ones who started to skirt the where they took advantage of bird rights to the point where they started signing all their free agents till they got up to the cap, and then they started re-signing their own free agents, and that's why cap holds exist. So all of these little nuances are because the Knicks found ways to just spend, and yet they still have not been able to win a championship. Only now, and this is the ironic part, only now when they're actually doing some smart financial things and their best player just gave them
Are they doing smart financial things, or they're just getting lucky with some of these dudes buying in because they all went to the same college together?
Well, whatever it is,
both.
however it works, it's a mix, sure, but it's actually working. They're actually doing smart things now. And now Dolan every time the Knicks start to get like good and relevant and Dolan's been quiet, he has to make a big fuss. And so I think there's some of that going on. But more than anything, I just think he's being somewhat short-sighted. He has to see what's going on here. And it was funny because today I went to a mall near me, which is completely dying. There's like 5 stores left. But it has the place that replaces watch batteries, and I took my stepson there, and we're looking at a big Sears, 3 levels of Sears that's closed. He's like, why did Sears close? And it's because they held on to the past for too long, and they didn't get into the online internet-based, model of commerce, and they fell behind in a hurry and they went under. Well, here's James Dolan doing the same thing, trying to hold on to the past by saying, oh, we're not going to have the same advantages we had before. Buddy, that horse has left the barn. This has happened. It's done. It's over. Like, the way we watch sports, like, I'm not thrilled to be, okay, what day am I watching Amazon Prime for a game? Or this is on what app now? Like, it's a lot, but this is how it is. So either get on board,
you gotta give people access, right? Like that's kind of the thing here. And yeah, he happens to own a regional sports network, right, in the biggest market in the country. Right. And it's like, I get it. Look out for your own thing here. But it's just some of his arguments are a little bit ridiculous in there, and I agree with you. You just got to adapt and be part of the times. And again, to call the Knicks a successful franchise over the past 20 years here, I just looked it up. They have the 4th worst record over the past 20 years. The Wizards have more wins and a better winning percentage. The Pistons do as well. Heck, the Pelicans do over the past 20 years than the Knicks, which is like stuff that makes me kind of laugh here with this sort of thing. Make the games available. That's the biggest thing. The NBA is working on that. Everyone's winning here. And the other thing is, like, this helps parity, right? Like, we want the NBA to be wide open. The fact that we've had a different winner the past couple of years is a good thing. You need to even this out, where big markets historically have had an advantage, or at least glamour markets, you could call them, have had an advantage in the NBA. Even it out so every fan feels like their team has at least a fair chance of being competitive. That's healthy for the league, isn't it?
It is healthy for the league. And look, I'm coming at it from a big market, right? Boston Celtics legacy team. But you have to understand, this is what the league wants. And yeah, the Knicks are going to go kicking and screaming because they don't want that. They want to be like, we're the Knicks. There's some level of, like, it's Lakers exceptionalism without the championships. They want all the chances for all of the premier free agents. They want to be able to spend their way in and out of trouble.
We're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And like they just can't. It's not how it is. He is a remnant of the past. And the final quote here from the ESPN story sums it up. He says, once again, pride of ownership is what's sacrificed. We are well on our way to becoming a one-size-fits-all, characterless organization. Just remember, we did this on the backs of owners like Jerry Buss. He wants to, and yeah, Jerry Buss was a very pivotal owner who made not just the Lakers in LA work. He was pivotal in the Clippers going to LA, and he did a lot for the league. But that was a long time ago, and this is now. And in this global economy, they need to find a way to cash in on the global money. It's not about regional sports networks anymore. Yeah, there's going to have to be some level of regional broadcasts, but the money's going to be coming in on the national side. And yes, they are moving to a model. They are trying to be more kind of like the league brings in the money and distributes it to everybody so everybody can have a chance. And with the internet, with social media, OKC, which is, I believe, the smallest market in the league, has a massive fan base and has one of the most popular stars in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and has a good young core that people can get behind and are excited about, and they can be sustainable just like the Celtics and the Lakers have been sustainable. Everybody's going to have a chance at doing this. This is how it is now. So the kicking and screaming of James Dolan is just, it almost, if I'm Adam Silver, I'd be like, well, that tells me I'm doing something right. If he's that pissed off about this, then we're on the right path. Are the Clippers on the right path with Kawhi Leonard? Why have they suddenly backtracked on why he left Team USA? Let's talk about that in just a second. A little glitch there on my YouTube here. But anyway, today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is going to get you great deals on last-minute tickets. I'm here in the Boston area, summertime, baseball time. I want to go check out some of the Red Sox games after they come back from the All-Star break. Very easy for me to open up the Game Time app, head on down to one of the bars around Fenway Park, and wait until we get close to the first pitch, because on Game Time, prices actually go down closer to first pitch, and they are a official marketplace for Major League tickets. So that's going to help me get my hands on some good Red Sox tickets, or what city you're in, you can get yourself tickets to that. But not only that, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever. They've got last minute deals that get you up to 60% off, flash deals that are in app on select seats. So you can get some surprise flash deals there, zone deals where you pick the section and they pick the tickets for you, so you can save a little extra there. You toggle in all-in pricing so you know the full price before you go to checkout, so no surprise fees. And you can get a panoramic view from your seat just so you know what you're getting. And their lowest price guarantee will credit you 110% of the difference if you find that ticket somewhere else. So take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA, the name of this podcast, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Go to the Locked On Sports Today, streaming 24/7 on YouTube and on the Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's free. It's all day, every day, and it's great sports talk, no fake arguing like some of those other channels that shall remain nameless. We do real talk over here. And real talk, the Clippers appear to be in damage control over Kawhi Leonard. Something is up. Because when Kawhi Leonard first left Team USA, an official statement was released that says, quote, he respects that USA Basketball and the Clippers determined it's in his best interests to spend the remainder of the summer preparing for the upcoming season rather than participate in the Olympic Games in Paris. And then in a media availability on Monday, Lawrence Frank said, nope, it was USA Basketball's call, and I was, quite frankly, very disappointed with the decision. That does not jive, especially when the head coach, the Clippers head coach, is on the USA Basketball staff. So somewhere along the way, I think Kawhi was like, you know what? I don't like this at all. And they are, to me, in damage control, Jake.
It's super weird, isn't it? Like, it's super weird. There's just, those two things are like the exact opposite statements, where usually if someone's leaving, they try and kind of give them cover, or they say there's an injury, they're sick, whatever it might be. And look, for like Kawhi, that makes a ton of sense. He's played in like 4 playoff games past 2 years for the Clippers, basically. Maybe it's 6. I forget the number. It's not a lot. And he hasn't really been healthy. And they're a team that's kind of title or bust. And they're building around him even more now with Paul George gone. So having him healthy makes like a ton of sense. But like, I guess he must not have liked that this makes him look weak or vulnerable or injured or something, because for the Clippers to come out and be like, oh no, he's like totally fine. Then why isn't he on Team USA when his coach is there? Right? Like, this thing doesn't add up. And this has got to be someone like Ty Lue being like, no, you're not ready. I'd rather have you just rested, and like pulled some strings and got him kicked off, removed. Like, I don't know what you would call this.
Yeah, it makes the whole thing weird. And it raises questions about, well, if your coach is doing one thing and your executive is saying something different, your coach is part of the team, this entity that said, you shouldn't be playing. Maybe they're playing good cop, bad cop. You know, maybe the franchise is trying to like make Kawhi feel good about what's going on. They did just lose Paul George, right? And if Kawhi was like, no, I feel okay, even though he didn't look okay, I just wonder if the Clippers are trying to salvage some sort of relationship here, because if that relationship goes south, then the whole thing falls apart. They've banked on Kawhi being cornerstone of their immediate future, because they wouldn't commit to Paul George sticking around long term. They wouldn't give him the 4th year. They were kind of, to hear Paul George tell it, kind of messing around with negotiations. And now they've got Kawhi and James Harden as their 2 big superstars. Like, they need Kawhi to be there and ready for them all year long. So on the one side, Ty Lue could be like, I'll be the bad guy because they know I'm not going anywhere. I'm not getting fired. So you can say I was decision-making privately, whatever, that got him kicked off. And then Lawrence Frank could be like, no, we really wanted him to play to kind of like whatever, smooth things over. And then hopefully by the time camp comes around, his knee is going to be okay and they'll manage it and all of this will blow over. But you don't have this statement from Lawrence Frank if Kawhi Leonard is cool with how things are going.
No, obviously, right? But so like, I get him being cool with the franchise and them maybe being like, no, we got to not rock the boat here. But then doesn't it feel like the boat's rocked with Ty Lue, his head coach? And how is that going to play out this season? Because couldn't Lue have done something to keep him on the roster if he was healthy? And it's not like, even if he was like the weak link on that team, that it's such a fatal flaw. There's so much talent there that you can basically have a guy that's not fully ready to go and keep him on the roster, as good as Derek White's going to be for them, right? Like, Kawhi was fine, and if he didn't play a minute in the Olympics, like, they're probably still the favorite to win gold no matter what. So I don't know, it's super weird, right? Like, they just signed Lue to an extension too, so it's not like he's going anywhere. So these two things just don't add up, and it creates these other narratives, right? Like, there's worries there that Nike is too involved with Team USA. We've seen that stuff, the rumors with Jaylen Brown not getting that invite and Derek White being the guy instead, right? Kawhi is a New Balance guy, and maybe Nike doesn't want that. Like, man, these just don't need to be the narratives around this stuff. And they unfortunately are, which takes away from what this is going to be, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, I can see like I know Jaylen Brown and Nike got into a whole big thing. And so, yeah,
all
maybe,
the cryptic tweets there.
Yeah, I don't think, if Nike really was behind this, I just don't know that Kawhi would have been invited. But
yeah, in the first place, right?
But, you know, I also have always thought that all along, Kawhi was invited more as a courtesy. Like, I think, and this is not with any information, it just feels to me that Team USA they knew that he's been hurt. So they probably were thinking, well, Kawhi's hurt. We'll invite him. He'll say no. We'll put Derek White on there. And like that's kind of more of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, but how does that jive or square up with like Joel Embiid, who hasn't looked fully healthy and isn't playing the best when we've seen him in these two scrimmage games, right? Like, how does that work out? And I get maybe they need kind of like that bruising center kind of Joel Embiid when you have Anthony Davis, but you also have Bam Adebayo there, right? Like, he doesn't look fully healthy. Like, they haven't removed Joel Embiid from it, right? So why not also do it for him? And maybe that's coming in the future, who knows? But doesn't that add like a wrinkle to it? I just thought of that like in the moment, right? Like, that, again, it doesn't add up. Something's weird.
I think the reason Embiid is there is because they're facing Jokic, and they're gonna need somebody out there as every team they face isn't going to be like, let's just switch everything. And like, there's going to be a couple of matchups where you're facing big centers. And, you know, if you face France, let's say, you're going to need somebody that can be big against their length and Rudy Gobert. And Anthony Davis can certainly do it, but also Anthony Davis gets roasted by Jokic pretty easily. And like, Embiid hasn't always had the most success against Jokic, but he's had some, especially recently. So I think Embiid is there for a specific matchup, and that's why. And because he's a center and because there are specific matchups, it's easier to justify Embiid there, even though he looks slow and not great. Kawhi is, at least there's a bunch of wing scorers that you can put out there that can do what he does.
There's redundancy there at the position. I agree with that. And look, if you're Kawhi, like, the most important thing is like play in the freaking NBA playoffs as opposed to the Olympics, in my opinion, right? Like, shouldn't that actually be his priority in the first place?
Yeah, I think so too. But also egos get in the way, and
big time.
You know, and so I don't know. But to me, this is a bad summer for the Clippers. I think this is just turning out to be a bad summer for the Clippers. And this is not something that they need. They're trying to open up this new building, and it's just kind of, this is a shaky landing. This is trying to land sideways in turbulence. If you ever like look at those YouTube videos where the plane's coming and it's like sideways and has to try to turn the nose to land, like they're landing in some really bad weather here. So we'll see how that goes. All right. Jaylen Brown was on the sideline summer league game, and the camera caught him saying, "This is going to be a pro." So let's play our game of real or fake when we come back. So Jaylen Brown on the sidelines in Las Vegas at the Thomas and Mack Center Arena, turns to his guest on the sidelines during the game, says lip readers caught it clear as day. I don't think Bronny's going to be a pro. And from what we've seen, he might have a point. He might have a point. So let's play our favorite game that we play every week.
Is this real or fake? Just ask John and Jake.
Jake Madison, real or fake? Bronny James is not a pro.
Okay, so I'm of two minds of how to answer this. So one, it's real. He's a pro. He signed a 4-year guaranteed deal. So he's a pro NBA player based off of that contract. Now, it's also fake because he probably shouldn't have that 4-year guaranteed deal, even if it's the second round minimum exception contract. He should be on a 2-way, which still makes you a pro player, just not a very good one and a borderline one at that. So like the answer is like, in a sense, if we're going real technical here, real, but like, no, the true answer is fake, right?
Yeah. He's not a pro. And he may become a pro. Like, he's not an NBA level player. He's on an NBA contract. That's correct. So technically speaking, he's not. But look, there's a couple of things here that are unfair just to start before we get into the deeper conversation. Number one, Jaylen Brown shouldn't have to answer for this, but he has had to answer for it because he's just there on the sidelines as a fan. He's turning to the person sitting next to him. He's saying this. He's not making a public statement, but the camera just happened to be on him as he said it. So bad luck there. Not really fair that Jaylen is catching any sort of strays because of this. Secondly, it's not really fair that Bronny James is being discussed in this manner at all. And I know we're here discussing it because this is one of the things that's happening, and we're going to talk about what's happening in the NBA world. But the dude's the 55th overall pick, and 55th picks look bad at Summer League every year. Every year, a mid-50s pick is going to look bad. And does that mean he's always going to be bad? No. Could learn, could grow. So to say that he'll never be an NBA level player, you can't say that. But he's not an NBA player right now. He's not an NBA level player right now, even though he's got that contract, which makes things a little difficult for the Lakers. Why did he get that contract? It is the second round exception. Second round exceptions are being used all over the place. But for the Lakers in the spot that they're in, to not only have a summer where 5 guys or 4 guys that they probably could have done without all had player options that they picked up, to then give one of the few remaining guaranteed roster spots to a guy that you could have just kept on a 2-way deal. You know his father's got some money. He's going to be okay. Why did you waste a guaranteed deal at this point with LeBron in his last few years of his career and desperately needing anything you can to try to put a reasonably good player around him and around Anthony Davis? That's the bigger question. Not why did you draft Bronny? I get it. You could have given him a 2-way deal. Yeah, sure. But the wasting the roster spot, that is the issue.
Yeah, it is, right? Like, and I'm of two minds about it. Like, I get it, right? It's LeBron James. The Lakers like to take care of their guys. LeBron has gotten them a title. He's still the biggest star in the league, so that makes sense. But there's also the opportunity cost side of it, right? And that's kind of what you're saying right there. Instead of Bronny James, you could have Gary Trent Jr., who just signed with the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Lakers don't have an open roster spot nor the money to really give him. And if they did, this team would be better. Gary Trent Jr. is a good addition for the Milwaukee Bucks. He would have been a good addition for probably any team, but particularly the Los Angeles Lakers, who could have used a guy like his skill set. And they can't because they signed Bronny James to that deal instead. And they put themselves in this position from a year ago. You had Christian Wood pick up his player option. He's barely getting minutes. Jackson Hayes is barely an NBA player. He picked up his player option, right? Cam Reddish picked up his player option too. You have D'Angelo Russell, and that one at least makes a little bit more sense given his skill set and his production. But they put themselves in this position where, you know, maybe if they didn't have those 3-4 guys on the roster, the Bronny James thing wouldn't be as bad. But given the position they're in, that opportunity cost becomes pretty significant, in my opinion, for that team. And there's a reason why they've struck out on everybody, I think. I don't think it's virtually everyone. I think it is literally everybody they've tried to go after in free agency so far.
Yeah, it's like a bad summer for all the NBA teams. LeBron was actually willing to take less for one of these guys, and none of them came to, decided they wanted to go to the Lakers. Klay Thompson went to the Mavs. DeMar DeRozan went to the Kings. Those could have been guys that LeBron would have said, hey, in a trade, a sign and trade, let's get to let's figure out how to get these guys. And they both actively said, no, I don't think so. So that's tough. Mm-hmm. And missing out on those, maybe this is just like, hey, we understand we're just not able to do it. And maybe it's not going to be an issue if they get into December and you say, well, we can, because they're not over the second apron. and this is where the new CBA, like I have to double check this, but they might be able to aggregate a couple of these guys to a different team and say, all right, we can maybe package up a Christian Wood, Jackson Hayes, and somebody else. Jared Vanderbilt makes $10 million. Gabe Vincent makes $11 million. Like you can kind of take Vincent plus a couple of these other guys, wrap them up in a deal and say, that's how we're going to get our guy. And then the Bronny James contract doesn't really matter so much, but it's still questionable decision-making. And it's, again, it just adds that level of this isn't fair to, it's not fair to another guy that maybe did have a good summer league that could come in and compete for, maybe there's a second round pick that's actually there that can sign a training camp deal and compete for an open roster spot that's occupied by a Bronny James. But if he was on a two-way deal, that would have been available, but now we're kind of stuck on that. So it's not the best as far as team building. Like they could have easily made the promise of, hey, he'll be on if there's an open spot at the end of the year, we'll upgrade him. We can upgrade him later, but let's do some business and try to operate in this Western Conference and try to put a winner together. So that's where the questions really arise.
Yeah, opportunity cost. We'll see what it does for their title. That seems like a weird word to say with them right now. Title contention next season.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be much title contention there. All right, well, glad we had some topics to talk about this summer. Still an eventful summer with Team USA, Summer League, and all that stuff. So lots to talk about here in the Locked On NBA podcast, which runs 5 days a week, every day, every Monday through Friday, all summer long. So make sure you're subscribed. We got rotating hosts all week long. We're here on Wednesdays. I'm John Karalis, host of the Locked On Celtics podcast at John_Karalis on Twitter.
And I'm Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast on Twitter at NolaJake.
Nick Angstead and Pat the Designer got tomorrow's show. But in the meantime, we ask you to hop into the comment section on YouTube, share your thoughts, and then share the podcast. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On NBA podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.